Thank you so much for being here. And this is Thanksgiving Day week, and I know everybody is in already a holiday mood, and Rosalyn and I are thankful and grateful for our presence here. Because the name of the group is Join Us for Present Happiness, and that's pretty much what I see us doing here every Tuesday. Hi, Lynn. Welcome. Good evening. And with those few kind words, I'm going to turn it over to you, Rosalyns, and see what you want to share.
Well, I thought you were going to start us off, but I would maybe like to talk about Thanksgiving, not in terms of gratitude. And John and many who listen later are not actually from the United States. But I would like to talk about tension and contraction, and what works and why would we look at tension and contraction. It just came to me when Dov said, turn it over to me. That's really, if you think of it, what is judgment? When we judge, we contract. What is freedom? Freedom is openness. Freedom is the opposite of contraction. And for many, hi, Carol, and hi, Rico.
There we go. Carol, hi.
For many, holidays are really about contraction or a wish for something that is not present. The happy holiday or something that is not an everyday experience. And we're going to show a video in a few minutes about enlightenment from Adyashanti. Do you all know Adyashanti? Yes? Many know him.
Yeah, he's an American guru, basically, out of California.
He likes to be called the guru, but
yeah, well, he is. He has attained enlightenment.
Yeah, he's an awakened teacher.
Yeah,
a non-dual teacher.
Yeah.
But the theme of his talk is that enlightenment happens to ordinary people. And we think of it as happening to the gurus, but not us regular people. And I think because we make everything so complicated, we're actually contracting and pushing it away. I'm trying to talk in very simple terms so that we can all be on the same page. And I think that awakening is a lot simpler. That's what A Course says. It's not anything to, what's the line of? It's hidden in plain sight. And what's the other line?
Well,
it's not a change, it's a recognition. It's not a change at all.
Enlightenment is not a change, it's a recognition. Yeah.
Right. So
and I want to say, I want to congratulate Rosalyn for choosing Adyashanti tonight. It is such an excellent topic. Truly. Okay, thank you, Rosalyn.
Yeah. So what if we just think of opening and closing and make our lives so much simpler, just as an experiment tonight and maybe this week, or whatever time you choose, be an experimenter, because this is all an inside job. We all either contract or open on the inside, and then it shows on the outside. But nobody can do it for us. We can stay tight. Somebody can tell us open and you'll receive freedom. But unless we have that motion to open. So let's not make it so complicated and have so many concepts. What do you think of that idea of just open and close? You like that, John? Yeah. You know, last week, I had a lot of thoughts about you, John, after last week, because something who, Carol, I don't think you were here. Robin was here, Rico was here, Lynn was here, Rafi was here, Dov was here for the first part, when John and I were having a conceptual discussion. Do you remember that? And then Dov said, and I turned it over to Dov, and he said, "You're both right." We weren't arguing, but we were on different pages. We were differing in concepts. And then we went to meditation, and it was gone. Did you notice that? Did you notice that, John? It was all gone. There were no differences. And so we can argue with concepts and we can make things complicated, but they're really possibly, let's consider that they could be simpler than we had imagined. Should I play it now, Dov?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see how I do. Okay, it doesn't want to do it this way. So let's see. It's going to take me a second, I think. No, it doesn't want to do that. Just a second, I'm going to bring it back. Here it is. Now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to screen share. Share screen. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Away, pedestalized.
I think it's an audio.
You really
here.
don't think it's rare?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, can we talk numbers, Ajay?
Sure.
I mean, we're
Wait,
talking
let
about
me start it.
that awakening is rare, that's a myth that we have to dispel, and that myth is one of the things that keeps people away, pedestalized. You really don't think it's rare?
No.
I mean, can we talk numbers, Ajay?
Sure.
I mean, we're talking about
Sure.
tens of thousands of humans who are alive and awake.
I have
we're talking,
no idea how many people. The only people that I know about are the people that I encounter.
Okay, so let's talk those
So
numbers.
I don't make projections.
Right, let's talk those numbers,
yeah.
just even that you
I
encounter.
hear from other people or other
Dozens?
teachers that
Dozens
are
that you
many
encounter?
more.
More than dozens?
Hundreds.
Hundreds that you've encountered?
Yeah.
Wow.
Listen to how open she now is from
So
how
to me,
before.
that's a fair number. Few hundred. Like I said at this retreat, and when I started to teach, I hoped that, boy, maybe one person would really awaken, really deeply in a lifetime of teaching. If that could happen, that would be great. And like my teacher taught for 30 years, and not that that everyone who wakes up is going to teach. In fact, most people don't. The vast majority of people don't, and they're just not called to. But I've been teaching for what, 8 years, something like that. And so far I've asked 12 people to teach, and there's many, many others that were clear enough to even teach that they're just not really cut out to be teachers. There's a lot more to spiritual teaching than just waking up. There's just sort of, human packaging that kind of makes us adept at being able to do it. So to me, I myself am very, very, very surprised, to be quite honest.
This idea that enlightenment is rare, and here you are, you're telling me that it's not. I think that idea, that's perhaps one of the biggest obstacles, because you get that in your mind.
Yeah.
Someone gets that in there. I have had that in my mind.
Sure, I had it in my mind too.
And so you sort of give up in a way on the idea that it's possible for you.
Sure,
It's only possible for a dozen people or something.
Because most all of us feel like we're not the chosen ones.
Right.
Most of us feel pretty ordinary when you get right down to it. And if we have this conscious or unconscious belief that this is for very rare, means it's for very extraordinary people, it totally contradicts our experience because we're not extraordinary, most of us. And we feel very ordinary and we don't feel like rare chosen people. And so this idea just is, it is one of the, if not the most powerful impediment to awakening. And our examples of awakening, they feed this because we have images of the awake being. And they're all sort of, halo enshrouded, long-haired, flowing gowns. And if they're doing anything in life, they're always teaching. They always have disciples. They have people falling at their feet. These images are out there, and yet it's simply not so. It's just simply not so. It's very hard for our minds to get that, enlightenment, it can look like, your grandmother or the grocer. It doesn't need to look in any way extraordinary. Some enlightened beings are very charismatic, but you know what? Some unenlightened beings are very charismatic. But these images, they really, really get in the way. That this isn't about in any way becoming extraordinary. If anything, it's just becoming ordinary. It's becoming who we really, really are. To let go of these beliefs is, I think, very, very important. Very important. They really get in our way. And they're just simply not true. People come see me. I'm a pretty ordinary guy. Born on the West Coast, raised in suburbia, pretty ordinary guy. When I come over to my house, we'll play poker. One of my favorite things to do, listen to Frank Sinatra while we're doing it. It's, I don't sit around contemplating my navel every moment of the day.
Well, I think one of the reasons the belief that it's rare has become popular is that here are people, as you mentioned, who have been practicing for 20 or 30 years, seriously, not really making the kind of large breakthrough which you described for yourself. And so a certain kind of grumpiness, cynicism.
Sure.
Otherwise, they would have to believe that they were a screw up. Do you know what I mean?
That's one place their mind could go.
Yeah.
One place, or their mind could,
or the path that they're following is useless, or
Yeah, that's a much more threatening one. And of course, that's, I think, what contributed to my own awakening. Was I didn't blame it on the path, but I blamed it on my relationship with the path. It's not working. And a lot of people around me had a similar relationship to the path that I had. And that's why I encourage people to shake it up, shake it loose, let yourself question, open it up a little bit. Don't be afraid to question. It only really caught fire for me in an intimate way until I finally could be courageous enough to ask myself, is there any such thing as enlightenment? Or are we all just fooling ourselves? Maybe it's just a crock. And, it took me what seemed like forever, but it was only about 5 years to get to that point, to actually get there. What you think you'd start out at that point, like what's true and is this true and da-da-da. But only after 5 years did I realize I had been in many ways afraid to even ask that question. And this was hindering me in a big way because I couldn't look fresh with innocent eyes. Of course, when some people get to a similar place, but then they go into cynicism, which that's just another way of hiding. But, I felt very innocent, very like I don't know, like I want to know, very innocent, very open. And I think this is a really important thing. And to look at yourself and see what hasn't worked, what's not working, and have the courage to change, to move on if something's not working. These are very powerful things to look at, I think.
Okay, I want to say, I don't know what your takeaway is on listening to Adi Ashanti, but as he was speaking, I was thinking of the idea that being an enlightened person, being an aware and awakened person, is a matter about recognizing that this is not a spectator sport. You know, if you go to a baseball game and you're in the stands and you're watching the players on the field, well, you know, you enjoying the game, but they're doing the actual playing. Enlightenment is what is there are no spectators. It's not something you're thinking about or learning about. You're actually involved and committed to. It's like what your purpose is to wake up from this dream of thinking that the world I see now is real, and remembering, no, I am the dreamer of the dream, and you become aware. And I think the most important thing for me is become aware of the voice in my head is not my real voice. The voice in my head is a artificial voice telling me that you have to learn things, that there's something out there that can hurt you, that can bother you, to be afraid of. So that voice is certainly not my friend. And as I begin to let go, another word of let go is begin to forgive those beliefs that I have, my mind starts to open up and I have more quiet, more silence, more stillness. And all of a sudden, I am aware that what I am looking at is not that meaningful. And that's why lesson one in the Course in Miracles is nothing I see here means anything. But as long as I'm giving meaning to things, I'm still kind of a spectator trying to figure things out. You can never figure anything out in awakening, because the one who does the figuring or the analyzing or trying to understand is the ego. And the ego always says, well, there's more to understand, there's more to learn, there's always more ahead of me. Actually, it's your willingness to just be here now and accept the now, in which you can actually begin to feel that you are awake, because in the now, the past does not show up. But that does take practice. It takes, like anything, like any sport. I don't care what sport it is, you got to practice, practice, practice. Are there any thoughts on that? Rafi, go ahead.
Well, Lester Levinson, from whom I learned, said that the reason we don't go free, become enlightened, self-realized, whatever term you want to use, is because we're afraid we're going to die. Because your mind is still saying you're this body, and this body has a limited lifespan, and if you go beyond that, you're going to die, and that's what holds a lot of people up. And so to bring up the fear of dying, instead of trying to push it away, you keep welcoming it and loving and loving and letting it go and letting it go and letting it go. And it makes the whole process more simple.
That's beautiful.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Rafi. Thank you.
Mm.
Is there anyone else, Len?
Namaste, mighty companions. A few years ago, I was very, very cold. I couldn't get warm for anything. And then I felt something inside of me. And my gratitude was so great that I started crying. And I felt like I realized something inside of me. And I knew it was something greater than me. And I prayed that whatever it was would take me over. My poetry started changing. I felt very out of it because people weren't talking about it at this time. It wasn't until the pandemic that I heard people say, I'm awake. And I go, oh, I'm not a freak, and because you can't really explain it to someone. And although I try to hint at it, but like, and then you have the others, the, ego saying, who do you think you are? Or who are you to get this when other people aren't? Who are you? So it was, I wrote a lot of poetry then. And now I see like it's spreading like wildfire. And I love it. Thank God. And yeah, ordinary people. I never, ever, ever thought I'd be happy. I was just, I facilitate a group at NAMI and National Association for Mental Illness, something like that. And it's people are waking up. And aside from all this conditioning, this brainwashing that's been passed down from generation to generation, things are finally starting to open. And yeah, it's so wonderful.
Thank you, Lynn.
All right, thank you, Lynn. Yeah.
Rico's had his hand up.
Such a gentleman he is. Good evening, friends and family. Welcome. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you. I send you love, light, and well-being from my heart to yours. I want to talk a little bit about my reaction to the tape. I really liked it. I liked the questions the young lady asked, but I loved the way Adi Shanti answered them. And I say that in respect to myself. They were open. I felt they were honest, but they were expansive. They wasn't limited. And looking through my eyes, it gave me an okay to be on the path that I'm on and feel okay about it, but not try to be like him, because I'm not trying to be like him. And it was just very inviting and opening. And I really liked it. I took that 30-day challenge with him with the meditation series, and he's quite a teacher, but he's humble with it, in my opinion. He's humble with it because he doesn't play the authority while he's teaching. And for me, that says, come inside. Don't be afraid. Trust me. Rather than the authority that says it must go like this and it must be like this and this is what this says. He says, find your own path. I'm not here to find it for you. And for me, I like that. That's inviting. That's I just was really impressed with the way he responded. Just wanted to share that with my
Very good,
family.
Rico. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Carol.
I am very intrigued by what Dov was teaching. Could you, about being a spectator, not being a spectator, and could you expand a little bit more on that? I'm very interested in it.
Okay, very
I
good.
mean, I understand it and I think about it, but I would love to understand it more deeply.
Thank you, Carol, for the question. That's an excellent question to kind of open things up, as Rico says, how to open it up. If I think there's something outside of me that I need to learn from, or, like, well, he's a guru and man, I'm going to learn from him. That's kind of like being a spectator. And you get that because the voice in your head is saying that that person has something that you don't have. And if you could learn what that person has, maybe one day you're going to be equal and you too could be a guru. That voice is not your friend. By the way, in the Course in Miracles, in the Song of Prayer, which is the pamphlet, which you get at the end of the Course in Miracles, there's two pamphlets. I don't know if anyone here is, if you're not aware of it, there are two pamphlets, each around 20 pages long. One is called the Song of Prayer, and the other is called Psychotherapy. In the Song of Prayer, he happens to actually address this. He says, do you really think that you could sit at the feet of some guru and learn everything that this person has to learn, or excuse me, everything that this person has to teach. And one day when you learn it all, you can finally be equal to this particular guru. And his answer is 2 words: that's impossible. Either you recognize that you've always been equal, there's nothing outside of you. You're always speaking about yourself. You don't have to learn from anybody out. There's nobody to learn from. That's why many years ago, back in 2004, I heard, Dov, close the book already. You can't learn from a book. I mean, if you're learning from a book, you are a spectator. The book is teaching you. No, no, the book is preparing your mind, telling you what you give meaning to doesn't have any meaning other than the meaning that you give to it, and it's really meaningless. So as you drop the meanings that you give to the things of this world, the mind becomes quiet and still, and finally you become open to actually hearing the voice, your own voice, the voice for God, which is the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit is not separate from you. Holy Spirit is you. It's not the Holy Spirit is another entity. In fact, you know, in the teaching of the Holy Trinity, there's no Holy Trinity. There is one. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are one and the same. Nowhere does it say the Father ends and the Son begins. There's no delineation. The only difference is the Father created the Son. The Son did not create the Father. Is that helpful, Carol?
It is. It clarifies. It's not that I don't understand it, but I just needed to hear it again. Thank you.
Rico, you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
jump
Rico.
in. Yeah.
I just want to jump in. Carol, thank you. That was an excellent question. And I'm going to give you an example for me. This is not for anybody else, for me. I'm not at the feet of Doug and Rosalyn and you and Isabel and John and Rafi and who else is here, Franca and Robin and Lynn. I'm not at your feet yet. I've had some direct experiences which are contributing to my awakening as I interact with you. So I feel like I'm in the game. I'm an athlete. So I tell coach, I want off the bench. I want in the game. And because I'm in the game doesn't mean I'm gonna wait, but I have a better chance if I'm in the game than I do if I'm in the stands. So now I'm hanging out with you guys. I'm down in the game. I don't bow down to Doug or Roslyn. I love them. I respect them. But they give me a chance to have a direct experience in this interaction. And I feel myself slowly waking up. And I'm grateful.
And then,
Excellent. Thank you.
that claiming of it, that claiming, we heard Lynn do it, we heard you do it, that claiming that we feel shy of doing. There's something we have confused, humility and ego. We've got them all confused. And we think if we make ourselves small, we won't be full of hubris. But by claiming our potential, which is unlimited, is not arrogant. It's claiming our truth. We're not saying we have more than anyone. We're saying that is what we all are, because the oneness is all that there is. And there is this resistance to claiming it. So I love that you spoke of waking up. I do. I'm very grateful. We need to hear it from other ordinary people. We are all ordinary, just like he said. We know we are. And that's we're breaking the myth, the taboo, this idea that waking up and is something special that only unusual people will have, and that it blocks us. And I think last week we were also talking about I think Robin admitted it when I asked, isn't this hard to think about? I don't remember what it was that we were saying, but Robin was saying, yes, I stopped thinking. I can't think. Do you remember what the subject was?
The dreamer and the dream.
Yeah. It's very, very hard. And that's because we come up against a hypnosis. We've been taught since we were itty bitty babies that we're these separate beings. And eventually I'm going to, when the time feels right, bring a video that talks about awareness and consciousness is not inside our heads. We think it's in our brains because we think we're bodies. And so we think consciousness is in here. But when Rupert says I awareness, so that meditative place that when we go outside, what if we aren't located in a body? That plays with hypnosis again. Like, I think I'm following, but then what? We can't remember, we can't think. That's pay dirt. When we stop thinking like the ego thinking, when we can't even track, that is pay dirt. That means we've hit the hypnosis. That means we can wake up. I said this last week, I want to say it again. If let's say we have a dentist appointment or some airline, we have to get up at a certain time and we're in a very deep sleep and the alarm hasn't come on, but we know we need to wake up, but we're aware we're asleep, that we're having like groggy kind of sleep. It takes that knowing you're asleep to wake up, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And that's what I think when we listen to Rupert or someone say that I awareness, we're not I inside a body. That's the only way we can do what Dov is saying and see the world as not what we thought, is if we locate ourselves somewhere else, but we get hypnotized. So just taking it in little steps and admitting, oops, I'm in hypnosis, yay, I'm noticing. Because if we don't notice, we're just go on, whatever that track is. Lynn and Rico, do you still have your hands up or did you not put them down? You want to
put it down right now?
Okay, Lynn, did you want to speak?
I just wanted to say about how a lot people, well, first of all, I think awakening is an ongoing process. There's always more, that's that's when I say, absolutely, hit me with all you got.
Yeah, I'm going. Are you complete, Lynn?
Oh, I was just going to say about teaching.
Okay.
About not everybody could be a teacher. I remember asking John Monday, how can I give this? And he says, be the love you are. And that was the best advice anyone gave me. So, like I'm led. I don't choose how. I'm the love that I am. And we're all teachers. As we teach, so shall we learn. Now I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, to teach is to demonstrate. So what John Mundy said to you was perfect. Just be the love you are. Because real teaching is not standing behind a microphone and speaking. Real teaching is to demonstrate. I did want to kind of say there's a line in the course that says salvation is a collaborative venture. And that's what Rico was actually saying. She says, I'm not sitting on the bench. I'm out there on the field playing with everybody at full out. I'm here. And so when you finally arrive at a place where you can say, I'm awake, I'm aware, that's when the fun starts. That's when you start to see things completely differently. Instead of seeing somebody outside of you as somebody against you or opposing you or something like that, you recognize that everyone is here to help you become more conscious. And in fact, that was a quote from Eckhart Tolle. When you realize that people in your life are there to help you become more conscious and not to make you happy, that's when you're actually awake. So everybody in your life, if salvation is a collaborative venture, which is what it says in A Course in Miracles, is here to help you recognize that we are all in this together. The ego doesn't see that at all. The ego only sees, well, if you agree with me, well, then you're on my side. If you don't agree with me, you're on the other side. And, and never the twain shall meet. No, actually, all things that happen in this world are an opportunity to see things differently, to actually recognize that there are no barriers between brothers and sisters, that everything happens to be always flowing perfectly. I call it synchronicity. A lot of people maybe don't like the word, it's a long word, but synchronicity is saying that everything is happening perfectly now. And the next person you meet is the perfect person for you to meet. And the next thing that's said is the perfect thing that is said. And then we're all perfectly cared for. That's synchronicity. And it literally takes place in an ocean of love. The love is our oneness. The love is our oneness. And the synchronicity is just the way that we relate to each other perfectly. Are there any thoughts on that?
Dov, there's a question for you that's in the chat. I will read it to you.
Okay.
It's from Shelley. Her husband is asleep, so she has to be quiet.
Okay.
What is your thoughts on calling yourself God, Dov? I hear other teachers say that, but I'm not comfortable saying it. I have no problem saying I am the Son and one with God.
Okay. That's a fair question, and why I'm kind of smiling and laughing. I remember about 10 years ago when we first started ACIM Gather, and I'm talking, it started in 2004, and we had a lot of teachers back then. Around 2008, 2009, we had Regina Dornakis and Lisa Natoli, and a whole bunch of people, some of who have passed on, Cheryl Valentine. And one day, that very question came up. Can we actually say, I am God? And that 10 years ago, not one of the teachers wanted to say it. Not one of the teachers wanted to say it. And I noticed as time has gone on, as you say, Shelley, more people are actually saying, I am God. Now, technically, that is the truth because there's no separation between the Father and the Son. The word God is just a word. It's just a word. The word oneness, which I use all the time. I mean, basically, he says heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. So when you use words like God, which is a 3-letter word, and Son, which is another 3-letter word, and and Holy Spirit, which is another word, it seems like they're all separate and different. But when you use the word oneness, it's an awareness of our perfect oneness. That's what heaven is. There is no separation. There's no translation in oneness. And I don't know if that's helpful, Shelley.
Shelley, one of the things you haven't asked me, but I like to weigh in on this. What I notice for myself is that when I like the word oneness also because it gets away from God the greater and me the smaller. And it's that smallness that keeps us withholding, it keeps us in separation. So I think oneness never makes anybody more arrogant or more selfish or more egotistical. So that's why I think people are trying to get over that feeling of God the greater, me the smaller. Yeah, Dov is holding up his book, beautiful book, Oneness.
It's called Into Oneness. And the word God is a separating word. It really is. And people have all kinds of ideas of what God is. I mean, God created a world where people die and suffer. What kind of a God is that? In oneness, you're not talking about something different or separate from you. Somebody just raised their hand. I didn't. Rafi, go ahead.
Robert Adams said he has thing in one of the books, The Silence of the Heart. God dwells within me as me is one of the things. And then in the Bible, it's be still and know that I am God. And he said, if you have problems with the word God, just use be still and know that I am. Well, that is it. There's no separation there. Everybody, everything is that. And in one of our things, we use everyone and everything is part of what I am. And we're right back to I am again. And Deepak Chopra said, everyone and everything is working toward my ultimate good. Well, what does everyone and everything leave out? Nothing. So you're still back to the all again. And another one is we are all equally precious expressions of the divine infinite one. So I mean, when Fish was talking about one, I mean, it just makes so much sense. That's all.
Rico, that's Dov's book, Into Oneness.
Okay.
And I want to.
Can it be purchased?
Yes.
Amazon?
Get it at Amazon. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Shelley, you're doing just what Adyashanti said to do in the tape. He said, don't be afraid to question. Don't just listen to what people are saying, because that's how he found his own path. And I think just the awareness that you're not comfortable with that word is a portal. And I wouldn't, make much out of what anybody else says. Just notice where you are at the portal and don't try to push yourself through, but just that will change everything. Awareness changes everything. All you need to do. Can I read you all something special that came to me today? And I feel like it goes with this. It's from Rinpoche, who's a monk, a Tibetan monk, very famous. Lama, I don't know how you say it, Gendran Rinpoche. Nothing to do or undo, nothing to do or undo, nothing to force, nothing to want, and nothing missing. Happiness cannot be found through great effort and willpower, but is already present in open relaxation and letting go. Don't strain yourself. There's nothing to do or undo. Whatever momentarily arises in the body-mind has no real importance at all, has little reality whatsoever. Why identify with it and become attached to it, passing judgment upon it and ourselves? Far better to simply let the entire game happen on its own, springing up, falling back like waves, without changing or manipulating anything. And notice how everything vanishes and reappears magically again and again, time without end, wanting to grasp the ungraspable. You exhaust yourself in vain. As soon as you open and relax, infinite space is there, open, inviting, comfortable. Don't search any further, looking for the great awakened elephant who is already resting quietly at home in front of your own hearth. Nothing to do or undo, nothing to force, nothing to want, and nothing missing.
Thank you, Ross.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up another word, which for me says the same as the word God, but actually it's much more expansive. It's the word truth. You know, in lesson 152, it says, the truth is true and nothing else is true. In the Course, there's a 3-word sentence that says, truth is union. It tells you that in chapter 14, section 7, in the first paragraph. The next paragraph, he has a 2-word sentence. Truth is, truth is. Now, we all know there's a line in the Course, or maybe you do know, or you don't know. It says, God is, and then you cease to speak. Well, truth and God are really the exact same. Only the truth is true and nothing else is true. And truth is union. And what is union? Oneness. Oneness, union. So you can't really speak about it. See, words, he tells you this, is twice removed from the experience. He tells you this in the Course in Miracles. Words like God and Son and Spirit and ego, they're all words. But words don't really describe anything. They are twice removed. But the idea of oneness or union or truth is actually a lot real closer than the way we all grew up thinking, oh, well, God's out there somewhere and I'm over here and I hope he visits me on Christmas or something like that.
Shelley,
Yes.
that's beautiful. Shelley says she has no trouble saying, I am truth.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Beautiful. There's your portal, right? You walked right through. Mhm. John, you're quiet tonight. You're muted.
Yeah, I am not muted now, but I'd like to say something to you, Rosalind.
Yes.
That is, if you want to come to my house and read me some bedtime stories, I'd love that. I think you're one of the most beautiful hypnotists in the world, and you trance me out to an infinite degree. But well, when you were talking about nothing, and appreciate you, as a matter of fact, I like to add to what God is love. Everybody knows that. So in the degree that I'm a loving person, I have that union. But I know that I'm not taking my bag of shit into heaven, because otherwise I'd make a hell out of heaven. So basically, it's an ongoing process for me. And but so God is love is just a great concept too. And but for me, that's the thing is, to me, is that God is just an unknown, and I'm quite comfortable with that. It's unknown. Even myself, I'm unknown. I'm trying to know myself. So I'm having some self-knowledge. So my knowledge is very, very limited. But one thing I do know, and that is that when I listened to you and you said about nothingness and nothing that, it just fired off something that I like, because I study from other teachers, and my teacher in my mental catharsis was saying that if you want peace, you have to do basically 4 things, and it's really similar with what Dov teaches is so many times. No attack. That's nothing. No attack. No defense. Nothing to conceal. And nothing to guard against. It's another word for peace. That may be a first step to me to understand what love is, just to be at peace. What a concept. John, at peace? Oh my God. But one of the things I get there, Rosalind, I was just busy staring at your face, because you know what? You shake things up for me, and I welcome that. I get all discombobulated, and I got a fresh place to start, a new portal. And so I just want to honor you and say thank you so much. And you're a great, I don't want to say savior, but a great mentor for me, and I'm truly grateful. So thank you very much. That's my 5 cents worth, or 10 cents worth.
Thank you.
That's beautiful, John. Thank you.
And I feel we resonate on another level besides our words. I feel that you understand more from me that's underneath the words, through my voice or through something else. We're communicating. Yeah.
I think the word willingness, which is a big word in the Course in Miracles, is very important. When you are willing to join, you're already joined.
Mhm.
The opposite is I'm a little avoiding or resistant. I'm holding back. I'm not quite there yet. I need to learn more. That's always the ego. The ego always has some kind of a thought that it's not now, it'll be later. Because the ego lives in time. God and his son are eternal. We don't live in time. So your willingness to lean into the joining, and that's pretty much what our session is called. Join us for present happiness. God being love is also happiness. Lesson 103. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Lesson 101. I share God's will for my happiness. So it's my willingness to remember that I am as God created me, as his own will. One will, not two. If you're one will, you have no problem saying I am as God is. Same. In fact, we had Amy Anderson here about a month ago doing her Ho'oponopono. And if you recall, and I did this for a group down in South America this past week, and you don't do Ho'oponopono, which is forgiveness, with somebody here in this world. Oh, you can, but as she practices it, and I love it, she does it with God. Father, I am so sorry that I was mistaken thinking that you weren't with me and you were somewhere else. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, Father. I knew not what I was doing. I was really not in my right mind. I love you, Father, and I know you love me. Thank you so much, Father. So even though we do this with each other, we're really talking about our real relationship. And I know most of you know, I have that story about Mother Teresa, who says, if people don't like you, love them anyway. If they don't approve of you, forgive them anyway. Why? Because in the end, it's never between you and them. There's no them. It's always between you and God, who created you. And this world was made as a deception, as an attack, literally on our own Father. And in lesson 190, he tells you why you did this. Lesson 190, paragraph 8. Well, first of all, the lesson is I choose the joy of God instead of the pain. That's the name of the lesson. I choose the joy of God instead of the pain. And then he tells you why you chose the pain. Paragraph 8. I chose the pain because I wanted to deny my father the joy of his son. And when I was a kid, my mother used to say, people cut off their nose to spite their face. That's what this world is. We show up as an ego in spite of ourselves. And I don't know if that connects with anybody. If anyone has anything they want to share on that, I'd love to hear it. Yeah. Yes, Rico.
It wasn't in the whole thing you talked about, but it's one thing you said, it's a similarity in the 12-step programs when we're working through our inventories and amends. It says, in the final analysis, it was never between you and I. It was always between me and God. And that's really one of the canons that you have to remember going on, trying to treat people with love. If it doesn't come back, it's great. Don't worry about it. Keep it moving. But it's always between me and God. And I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rico.
And I'd like to add to that too, because Dr. Hugh Lynn takes it even further, and he takes it to the energy that is eternal, that's beyond a father and a son. He does it with a room, with the ancestors that were in that room, with the objects in the room, that he goes beyond people. He goes beyond you and me. He cleared a whole hospital out because he didn't believe in the people who were criminally insane and were being convicted of the separation between himself and these people. So he went to the paperwork and he did Ho'oponopono with the paperwork, as though he had done these things, knowing that the oneness would clear it for everyone. So I love it even beyond where Amy's taking it, and just take it to the oneness, where there's no separate people, there's no father, there's no son, there's no God, there's just the energy. And I love it that he does it with the room, with just the furniture, which, because that is the oneness, not even imagining that it's human, that it's everything. Does anybody have a response to that?
I read about that and I was really impressed when he went to the ancestors, because I've done some work with the ancestors, and he really impressed me that he went to that extent. And I said,
Yeah.
oh, wow, that's pretty heavy.
That's the oneness. That's no separation. That's no time. That's no space. That's no people. That's no father. That's no son. That's no objects. And then, this is where we get hypnotized. Let's just admit it. We're all hypnotized. It's not possible without realizing that we're hypnotized to expand there. Do you know what I mean? It's like we need to recognize, oh, that's where I've gone today, but wow, he went there. And I love that story. That opens another portal, that opens another possibility. And we're all potential. That's what we are. That's so exciting. We're all possibility. All us ordinary people, just like Adyashanti said.
Thank you. Shelley wrote, I forgive myself for my illusions from the beginning of time until now. That is beautiful. And that's really what's going on. We are forgiving our belief in illusions. And an illusion is just an investment. We have been invested in beliefs of differences, whether the differences are genders, religion, color, anything that reeks of a difference. We have believed in these things, and now we're coming together to see sameness or equality. And in the Course, it says, peace is the key to the kingdom. And what is the kingdom? He tells you the kingdom is not at hand or something different. The kingdom is you. The key to the kingdom is peace. And peace is the goal of the Course. But he tells you that peace has one condition, and that condition is equality or sameness or oneness. So you can't just say, well, okay, I and the Father are one, unless you see that all are one. All are one. No one is left out of the oneness. There's nothing to oppose. That's what real peace is. Nothing opposes, nothing conflicts with the peace of God. Nothing.
So it's 7:59. I'd like to just take 1 minute where we notice our breathing. We don't try to change it. Just notice it. Just allow. Just notice. And let's expand that noticing to the sameness, to the oneness, to the equality. Just notice. And when you have a thought, allow that thought. When you have a feeling, allow that feeling. And let's leave today with a noticing that our hearts are more open, our minds are more still. We're filled with oneness, equality, sameness, peace. Thank you. Have a good week, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm one
Wonderful
with that,
Thanksgiving to
Rosalind.
all.
Happy Thanksgiving. Well, don't forget to overeat. It's the law.
And John, I don't care what they say. I love you, man.
You're funny, Rico. I love you too, man.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Blessings.
Thank you, Lynn.
Everyone.
Thank you so much.
I love you.
Beautiful class. Thank you.